One thing that we can all agree is that the recently appointed cabinet by the current president of Zimbabwe, Emmerson Mnangagwa, has caused a lot of commotion, not only in Zimbabwe, but outside Zimbabwe. Let's talk about Southern Africa. Let's talk about Africa as a whole, even the whole world at large. International bodies, we can talk of UN, we can talk of the Commonwealth, and we can talk of the SADC. And a lot of people have said a lot of things about the cabinet, some positive, some negative. Ladies and gentlemen, before we get into today's story, if this is your first time tuning in on this channel, please subscribe to our YouTube channel and help us to get to the top. And don't forget to tap on the notification bell so that every time we post an update, you don't miss any of the videos that we do each and every day. All the notifications will appear in your feed. Hopewell Chin'ono, an award-winning international journalist, wrote on his Twitter, he said, and I quote, "As I said last week, stealing elections through all manner of rigging before and after the polling day itself would have been ignored by the business and investor communities if Mnangagwa had appointed a competent cabinet." This is Hopewell Chin'ono. That opportunity of salvaging any form of credibility is now gone through the window after Mnangagwa appointed the worst ever cabinet in Zimbabwe's living memory. So in other words, Hopewell Chin'ono is saying this is the worst cabinet in the history of Zimbabwe. He continued and said, "There are two types of legitimacy in global politics and business. There is political and performance legitimacy. Political legitimacy is derived from elections, and performance legitimacy is derived from a competent cabinet and administration. Countries like China and Qatar don't even hold elections, but they cover up with performance legitimacy. Now Mnangagwa is left with no political legitimacy or performance legitimacy, neither of the two. Local and foreign business people looked at that cabinet and shook their heads in disbelief. What it means is that Zimbabwe is now mired in a new political crisis which can't be fixed with jailing opponents, critics, or journalists as Mnangagwa's regime did in the last term. Mnangagwa will have to reshuffle that pathetic cabinet of his inside 12 to 12 months if he hopes to survive politically, even within his own party, because many in his party see that the cabinet is a terrible liability for the survival of ZANU PF. Many leaders and business people in SADC, Africa and beyond will have been able to live with a rigged election if there was performance legitimacy underpinned by craft competency. That is why global media is now focusing on Mnangagwa's cabinet, which is essentially a competitive platform of Zimbabwe's political mediocrity. A rigged, shambolic election and a mediocre cabinet living side by side spell doom for Zimbabwe and its people. There is now no legitimacy at all, and the political crisis continues unabated. That is why Mnangagwa's regime has sorted to its natural default of arresting and persecuting the opposition. Now this brings more tons of illegitimacy and is a good way of creating a pariah state. The opposition only needs not to cripple itself. It throws away processes like the debt restructuring discussion because they too are hinged on having some forms of legitimacy. The die is a cast. Hopewell Chin'ono was responding to a tweet which was posted by CNN Africa, which said Zimbabwe's recently re-elected President Emmerson Mnangagwa is facing outrage after appointing his son and nephew as government ministers. So one thing we can all agree, this cabinet has caused a lot of talk in the whole world, even on social media and different media houses. One of the key responses that caught my attention on this tweet by Hopewell Chin'ono was by a certain user, and she said, Emmerson Mnangagwa is facing outrage after appointing his son. This is a redundant, money-gobbling initiative crafted in the name of an effective cabinet, shadowing in the name of development of Zimbabwe, whilst in Zimbabwe people live under undesirable poverty datum line. Now Zimbabwe is the only country in the world with a Ministry of Skills Audit and Development. All this is meant to loot Zimbabwe's resources, not to develop Zimbabwe. Zimbabwe is bleeding, she said. One of the people also mentioned about the number of ministers. We have up to 24 ministers in Zimbabwe, and China, with a GDP of more than 19 trillion, has only 15 ministers. So this cabinet has caused a lot of talk in the world. Ladies and gentlemen, let us know what you think about this particular issue, about the recently appointed cabinet. Don't leave without telling us what you think. Your thoughts matter in the comment section. Thank you so much, guys, for tuning in on this channel. Don't forget to subscribe. Don't forget to like. Don't forget to comment. That's your way of supporting us as a channel. Till we meet again in the next video, stay safe, be peaceful, mind your own business.